we got to talk about some of the other, more specifically, Ohio State news today. And not one, not two, three Buckeyes announced they are back for the 2024 season. We're going to start with the offensive line. Donovan Jackson, he did not have the single greatest season. Really, no one on the offensive line had the single greatest season. But for Donovan Jackson to be back, Tony, that feels like that just sort of crosses one really significant line off of the potential to-do list for Ohio State in terms of filling an open position. Getting Donovan Jackson back feels like that's kind of like a sneaky, low-key, pretty big deal.
Yeah, imagine the alternative without him, and then you start getting worried about what are they going to do. So having him back eliminates an issue of trying to figure out who it would be, because, Tom, I couldn't tell you right now who it would be at left guard if there's no Donovan Jackson. Shoot, remember a year ago we were talking about him as being potentially the Ohio State left tackle, to give you an idea of the athleticism and the potential of him. So getting him back at left guard, regardless of the year he had or didn't have this past year, is huge, not just because now you don't have to worry about it, but you don't have to worry about what could have been. And because it wouldn't have been good. It wouldn't have been as good as this, especially now with the portal, being what it is. Like if they didn't have Donovan Jackson coming back, remember the panic that was in Ryan Day's voice last winter about the offensive line? There would be some panic in the voice about the interior of the Ohio State offensive line without him coming back. And so you get him, it's going to be a senior, a 3-year starter at that, at some point next year. So just a very big thing for an offensive line that has received a bunch of criticism for a very poor showing in the Cotton Bowl, but I think is trending towards being better than it was this past season.
Yeah, for sure. And it feels like if you got Donovan Jackson in, you can kind of write him in with Penn there or Sharpie at your left guard position. Feels like Josh Simmons has probably pretty much got the left tackle spot more or less locked down. You can pretty much write him in there with Sharpie as well. You got a couple options at center. Whether you've both, neither guy is an absolute lock, but you got a couple guys who have started this year, and a guy who spent a couple of years starting for Nick Saban as an option there. Right guard, that's the only spot that we know is going to be open. But again, you've got a couple options there. It just feels like there's a little more stability, a little more security, a few more options there where they can kind of mix and match. As we hear them say every year, it's about finding the best five. It feels like there's just, with Donovan Jackson there, he's going to be one of the best five, but that just increases the number of options and this guy can't play tackle, but he could play guard, or this guy can, play guard and center. There's just more options to find who your best five are there. So that's going to be a very big piece for them going into the spring and summer. They got some good news on the defensive side of the ball as well. One of the best cornerback rooms in the country. Is that too strong, Tony? One of the best cornerback rooms in the country? Yeah, for 2023. They're bringing back all three guys there, all three starters there for 2024. Jordan Hancock announced after we finished our afternoon live show talking about what a big deal it was that Denzel Burke was coming back. Jordan Hancock announced he also coming back. So Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock, both announcing on Wednesday that they are coming back. And then you get David Sigmanosin as back as well. That just feels, I don't know. I was trying to think through best Ohio State cornerback rooms ever. And that's a pretty good, best Ohio State cornerback seasons ever, maybe. I think best ever is probably too high a bar, but this is potentially a top 5 best Ohio State cornerback unit just with those three guys. I don't know that you have 2 future, top half of the first round picks in there, but that's a pretty darn good Ohio State cornerback unit that addresses a lot of the potential concerns about the back end of that defense next year.
When you say best cornerback rooms in Ohio State history, I immediately think a lot of people would think back to, I don't know, was it the 2016 with like Denzel Ward and Garyon Conley and who else at that point, or 2018 with Garyon Conley and Jeff Okudah and Sean Wade or Damon Arnett. My first thought was 1996, Tom. Ty Howard, Antoine Winfield, Sean Springs, Ahmed Plummer, like those are all legit dudes. And this one could be right up there because we're not even talking about Jermaine Matthews, and he would be starting at Ohio State next year, I think, in any other year.
Yeah, and Jermaine Matthews is someone who may be a little more delayed in terms of getting on the field. He tweeted out an emoji that, if I have read my hieroglyphics correctly, is basically he's locked in. So no concern there in terms of Jermaine Matthews leaving. But Kevin Noon joins us, by the way. Hi, Kevin. If you do have Jermaine Matthews as your fourth corner, I just go back. You only have to go back 2 seasons to the 2022 season when Ohio State got to their fourth corner pretty darn early in the season. That was probably Jair Brown, and he was starting in the 4th game of the season as a true freshman. If Jermaine Matthews is your fourth corner and you can rotate guys, or you can have some more depth in case a guy misses a week or two, boy, oh boy, again, now you're not talking best top 3, it's one of the best top 3 corner groups in recent Ohio State history. You're potentially talking maybe the best top 4 Ohio State corner group in the last decade, something like that. That just feels like it's just a little more insurance for Ohio State to go past that top 3 and still have Jermaine Matthews and some of the other guys that got in that room as well.
As we said on one of the 7 shows that we've done today, there could be a lot of football to be played this year with the 12-team playoff and more rounds potentially. And if Ohio State ends up winning the Big Ten, you had a 13th game right off the bat. I would like to have more depth at these positions. We talk about a pair and a spare, and when you're playing 2 corners, a pair and a spare, wouldn't that be 6 corners, or just based off of 2? And then if you're playing 3 corners, if your nickel is actually a corner, I mean we're getting into advanced math here and things that my math 050 at Ohio State isn't going to get this covered. So. I don't think that there's any real concern that Jermaine Matthews is going to wither away from boredom on the bench. I think he will get enough run for sure.
Advanced math is when Kevin has to take his socks off. Sue in the chat mentions Calvin Simpson-Hunt, and he is, presumably number 5 there in that rotation. And really, when we're talking about corners, Jordan Hancock's in the slot. That's sort of a safety. He's not entirely a corner. Calvin Simpson-Hunt, Jermaine Matthews is sort of the next man up potentially as the outside corners. Calvin Simpson-Hunt, another guy who you go through last year, and remember Jair Brown, who started that Wisconsin game in 2022? He is now at LSU, and one of the reasons is it feels like Calvin Simpson-Hunt may be past him on the depth chart. They like him a lot as well. Tons of speed to burn there. And, again, if you don't have to throw a second-year guy out there as a starter, that's a good thing. You potentially have, work him into more of a rotation there. That is a very, very deep and very, very talented room there at corner for Ohio State in 2024 with the returns of Jordan Hancock and Denzel Burke.